For years now, Sam Harris has been speaking of morality, or the morally good, as that which increases the well-being of conscious creatures. In his book, The Moral Landscape, he argues that science is best suited to discover and determine exactly how we do that. Increase our well-being. To me, wresting morality from the religious is the single most important project we can pursue as non-believers, skeptics, freethinkers, etc. When I became an atheist and left my religion in 1993, I was still so certain that morality required a religious framework that I nearly converted to Judaism and then Catholicism, because I had a 3-year-old daughter whose moral education was a priority. At that time, fresh off the boat, as it were, I couldn't imagine my daughter growing up and becoming a moral person without religion. Such was the brainwashing of my Mormon and Judeo-Christian education. I think that keeps a lot of people in the pews, not just for their kids, but for themselves and society in general. That has to change, as objective God-based morality is actually the strongest force for moral stagnation and regress. Sam's definition of the morally good, that which increases the well-being of conscious creatures, is in no way at odds with the religious morality taught based on the tribal war god of Abraham, at least not definitionally. Yes, religious morality is more concentrated and directed at human activity rather than considering other species on our planet for whom there is very little regard, if any. But religious morality really is about human well-being. The difference is simply one of scope and vantage point. In Western religion, those based on the Judeo-Christian Islamic traditions or scriptures, the scope of the moral landscape is much larger and includes not just our current lives here on earth, but the state of our well-being or lack thereof for all eternity in some supposed existence we will enjoy or not after this life. Heaven or hell. Likewise, the vantage point from which this well-being is determined is removed from the conscious consideration of human beings and the other conscious creatures here with us, and yielded to a being outside both time and space who can supposedly see what we cannot. A being whose power and control over our impending eternal state, heaven or hell, is unrivaled and beyond question. But please note that the ultimate goal is the same with or without God, religion, or the afterlife. It's still our well-being. Even the required skill set is similar. Religious morality, after all, is highly rational and fact-based when you include the vantage point of an omniscient, omnipotent being, and where the scope of one's thinking demands the consideration of a life hereafter and one's place therein. With this in mind, it's easy to see that God-based morality must rationally prioritize our well-being almost infinitely in favor of the afterlife, as the here and now, when compared with all eternity, is virtually irrelevant, a blip on the radar. Indeed, when viewed from this vantage point, the only priority left is securing one's well-being in the next life, whatever the price. Especially when the alternative is infinitely insufferable, pun intended. This is the thinking behind Pascal's wager, where one chooses to believe in God as a kind of insurance policy. There is nothing so lacking in well-being as a state of eternal torment where you suffer forever without relief. Nor is there something so inundated with well-being as a state of eternal bliss. These are the promises of Western religion, but on a grander scale, this is what we all want in this life and or the next. As little suffering and misery as possible, accompanied by as much bliss as one can endure. And I know I can be a little too much to take sometimes on that front. I apologize. With an objective so clear, embraced by both secular and religious thinkers, the only question is, how do we get there? This is where secular and religious thinkers part ways. And that's what we'll talk about next time. Until then, I'm not the person you think I am. Thanks for watching.